Step 6 is the biggest. And if you listen to me, it could change the quality of your life. This is the one that everyone likes the best. Step 6 is about long-term savings or long-term income. Now, there are two elements at play here. Two financial battles you have to win the money game. Now, I can be strong with you. If you don't incorporate these, the chances of you becoming financially independent probably won't happen. And if it does, it's way out there. Let's talk about the two battles. One is the inflation battle. We'll get back to that in a minute. Two is the tax battle. You know, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Taxes will hurt you if you're not careful. Let's talk about inflation. Have you heard of the rule of 72? Let's say you're saving at a rate of 4%. If you divide that 4 into the number 72, that will tell you how many years it will take for your money to double. 4 into 72 is 18. So your money would double every 18 years. Here's an example. Let's say that you have $100 in an account that's earning 4%. 4 into 72 is 18, so that in 18 years, that $100 becomes $200. What happens if we leave that $200 in an account that earns the 4%? In 18 more years, it will double again to $400. The problem is, in 36 years from now, will $400 buy what $100 does today? That's inflation. You know, if people are saving, where are they saving? Banks, credit unions, fixed accounts, where they're probably not even getting 4%. Their money's growing, but inflation is growing much quicker. And they may never be able to retire. The solution is to help them obtain a potentially better interest rate. Let's say a person could get 6 to 12%. Look at this. Let's assume you're 29 years old and you have $10,000 in an account at 4%. 472, 18, so that at age 65 you got $40,000. You're 65, the kids are gone, the house is paid for, and you got $40,000. How long is that $40,000 going to last you? Not long. Not long. A year? Maybe a little bit longer if you're really frugal. And then you run out of time. No money. And you have to become a greeter at Walmart. Who wants to work past 65? The only thing we could have changed is the interest rate. And here's the $1,000,000 question. If you could have averaged 6 to 12% instead of 4%, would you have greater financial independence? The answer is yes. Look at this. At 6%, your money doubles at every 12 years. At 8%, it doubles every 9 years. And at 12%, it doubles every 6 years. So that at 65, you have $640,000. The only difference between this guy and this guy is the interest rate. Not more time, not more money, just the interest rate. But it cost this guy $600,000. Now, isn't that a pretty important principle for you to learn? Yeah. It really could change the quality of your life. And you know what? It's not about having $10,000. The key is saving a little bit on a monthly basis at a decent interest rate. If you will save for you at a decent interest rate, there may come a time when you will not be out earning your money, but your money will be out earning you. Pretty awesome, huh? So the $1,000,000 question is, where can I get a decent rate of return, yet have protection of principal, where actually guaranteed not to lose money? Actually, there are 3 different scenarios. I'm going to give you a synopsis of each one. And you tell me which one makes the most sense for you, so that I'll know what's suitable for you when we get back together. The first is the fixed rate approach, where you get a guaranteed fixed rate, but it's a low rate. And you got a problem with inflation. The second scenario is the other end of the spectrum, mutual funds or the stock market, where you do have the potential for higher return, but also with a greater risk of losing your money. And a lot of people have, because it's been pretty dicey lately. The third approach is the index strategy approach, where all your principal is guaranteed. All your interest is also guaranteed. So you're guaranteed not to lose any money. The interest is linked to the S&P 500, which for the past 25 years has averaged almost 10% a year. Of these three, which one makes the most sense for you? The index strategy. Well, that's a very popular strategy. Let's talk a little bit about it. You've heard of the S&P 500, haven't you? Well, the S&P 500 is the 500 most widely held companies in the U.S., representing over 100 groups, including healthcare, insurance, utilities. The S&P 500 represents about 70% of the total American economy. But get this, the S&P 500 has averaged almost 10% a year for the past 25 years. If you had put your money in to the S&P 500 25 years ago and earned almost 10% a year, you'd be pretty happy, right? You betcha. Now, when we get back together, if we've determined that the index strategy is right for you, I'll then explain the products, floors, caps, and other terms and conditions. But for now, let me give you an overview of the index strategy and how it works. All interest earned is linked to the S&P 500 up to a cap, for example, of 12%, but without any of the downside risk associated with the market. So your money is protected from any loss, market loss, up to, but you have a cap, so you can't earn more than even if the market is above that, you can't earn more than the 12%. But you don't have the downside risk whatsoever. You're guaranteed. Here's an example. Well, let's say that a few years ago, you had $10,000 in an account, and the first year, indexed account, and the first year it earned 10%. You now have $11,000. Let's say that in the second year, it grew another 10%. Now we have $12,100. In the third year, the S&P loses 20%. Is that possible? Absolutely. In fact, it's happened. But now, instead of your account being $9,600, you still have, in year three, your $12,100. So you can see why the index approach is quickly becoming one of the most popular. And you can see why. One of the best ways to win the rate of return battle and the tax battle is to get potentially higher growth, yet protect your money from any downside market risk. But you can't just win the rate of return battle and forget about taxes. In fact, I'm going to show you an example that's going to shock you how important it is to win both the rate of return and the tax battle. Let's say that 30 years ago, there was a guy that wanted to have $1 million when he was 60. He didn't understand any of this. So he goes into a bank and he says, "Mr. Banker, what do I have to put away each month so that I'll have $1 million when I'm 60? Well, the banker figured it out. Back then, interest rates were about 5%. Today, they're 2 or 3, probably less. But back then, they were 5%. But the banker figured it out and said, what you have to do is to put away exactly $1,639.29 a month for 30 years, and you'll have your $1 million. Well, the guy was totally discouraged, and he left the bank and never saved a dime. He's a greeter now at Walmart. It's terrible. Now, what if we could have taught him how to win the two battles, both the rate of return and the interest battle? First, let's talk about the rate of return battle. If we could have gotten him 10% instead of the 5%, it brings that monthly number clear down to $900 a month. Now, do you know many people that could save $900 a month? No, neither do I. However, that's $700 less than this guy. That's significant, right? Yes. Now, what if we could have taught him how to win the tax battle as well, so the money can't be taxed while it's growing? It brings that number clear down to $438 a month. Now, do you know many people that can save $438 a month? A lot. probably you could do. You're probably blowing that much every month, right? I bet you. Now, as I said before, it's not about putting away a ton. It's about putting away what you can at a decent interest rate. And there come a time when your money will not be, you won't be out earning your money, but your money will be out earning you. In fact, in step 6, when we're done, a person knows how and when they will be financially independent. And if we do it right, we can shave years off that time frame. In fact, it's really neat. If you're financially independent right now, and you had enough in your nest egg, so that each month you had enough money so that you didn't have to work, what would you be doing? What are your dreams? What are your goals? What would you be doing? That's great. Now think about it. If you were financially independent, you have options. And that's the thing. You could do what you want, when you want, and how you want. In fact, it was interesting. Last week we were at a client's for the implementation phase. That's the second appointment. When the wife gets up and says, you know what? I could go door to door asking my neighbors if they knew when they were going to be financially independent. And you know what? Nobody would know. But I do. At that moment, she and her husband became one because they knew what their dreams were and when it was going to happen. So it was exciting. That's step 6.